What I love about my job is, getting kicked in the head every day of the week still, making lots of mistakes, hopefully new mistakes. I thought I knew some stuff about the selling of enterprise technology, and it's been humbling to get into that new space and to realize. So here from the other side, Greg. Let me tell you, the way you sell to a legal privacy person is light years away from the ebb and flow of a conversation with a marketer.
Fair enough.
And what I really appreciate about marketers, yes, maybe nobody moves as fast as you want them to. That's the other lesson I've learned the last 25 years. Everything that should happen, damn it, it needs to happen in 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, it takes 4, right? But even calibrating for that, I think that when you talk to marketers, there's just a more basic curiosity, right? There's a more open-minded posture.
Hi, I'm Greg Stewart, CEO of MMA Global, the international nonprofit trade association for CMOs who are focused on architecting a new future of marketing.
I'm Rex Briggs, an author, market researcher, measurement inventor, and entrepreneur.
Listen, the development of AI is pretty darn exciting right now, and everybody knows how fast it's moving. I just had a whole team call globally, and it's a worldwide phenomenon at this point. But a lot of time, I think what's necessary here is that, a lot of the innovation, a lot of work comes from small startups. Now, listen, a lot of people want to go work for big organizations, but today's guest, I'm maybe getting a little ahead of myself, is a guy who, I don't know, he might, big companies aren't the place that he'd like to be. He's the guy who's going to make it happen from the very beginning and take all the big risks.
Yeah, Tom is one of the most nimble and innovative thinkers in this space. And, I think we have a great opportunity to take this conversation in lots of different places, to talk about different startups, different directions you've gone. So, Greg, where do you want to start with Tom?
Well, I think
How about introducing him?
Should we introduce him? Yes. We kind of get in. People say, "Who the hell is this on the phone?" Sorry about that. So, listen, our guest today is Tom Chavez. He's the co-founder of Superset. It's a startup studio that specifically founds, funds, and builds. And Tom, we're going to turn to you. Is every technology startup you're doing right now, everyone in the portfolio, are they all AI driven?
They all center on data and AI. That's what we do.
Yeah. And I don't even know, maybe, we should probably do a little background too, just on the very rare chance that there's people here who don't know you. I mean, so the fund is your first fund, I think, but you had 2 previous startups. One sold to, what did the first one sell to?
Sold to Microsoft.
Yeah.
And you were there. You were there for that. Greg.
I was there. I was on
our
the board
board
when that happened. Amazing, incredible. What's interesting is that that funny too is a business that's a classic. Did we sell too soon? Could it even been bigger with the new vision? Yeah, people were willing to give us money. It was the right thing to do at the time. And what was the second one, Tom?
And the second one was a company called Crux, which we started in, I guess, 2010. Salesforce acquired Crux in 2016. It's a data management platform.
Crazy. Yeah,
Great success.
Yeah, hell of a ride. And I don't know, Rex, where should we start? Should we kind of list? Oh, by the way, Tom, I should say too, Tom has he has a PhD from Stanford, and I don't know, Tom, how long in AI? 20 years, 25 years? What? 30 years? How old are you? You don't look that old yet.
I'm old AF, Greg, and it's been at least 25 years since Stanford.
There we go.
Yeah, when we were doing, at the time, it was like a lot of applied math, decision science, optimization theory, and I remember there was this one weird algorithm, conjugate gradient search, that you had to study for in our optimization classes. And like, God, it's kind of cute, but who the hell's going to do anything with that, really? And of course, many years later, it's one of the central enablers of the modern age of AI. So funny, all of these things finally get taken off shelves and they get useful if you wait long enough.
Let's talk about how it gets useful. I've been following your podcast, The Closed Session, which I encourage people to check out. And thank you for having me on as a guest. you are just covering a huge amount of ground with the different people you're talking about in AI. Talk to me about what you see as the biggest opportunities right now, immediately for marketers.
Yeah, look, it's like this kind of explosion, we think, of possibility for marketers. And I'll be honest and tell you that after Crux, Vivek, my long-term co-founder, and I, you feel like you've done a thing and it was good and you learned a bunch and then you want to branch out. And so many of the new projects at Superset, again, center on data and AI, but there's like a lot of dev tools. There's a privacy company, there's a music collaboration company. So we've been away from MarTech for a while, but in the last year and a half, it just became clear to us, wow, okay, we've got to hurdle back into this because all of the prior conceptions and rules of play and frameworks that we used, we think are just out the window, right? So, which is to say, lots of opportunity to reinvent modern marketing almost from scratch, right? And I want to kick it around here with you guys, but it's hard to find even nooks and crannies that can't be radically transformed now by AI. It's really exciting.
Yeah, and I think to kind of state the obvious for the listener, I think most people believe that marketing and sales is probably the area within any business is going to be completely most affected. And I think what's interesting, Tom, because I'm going through a process right now of trying to develop use cases for marketing. I don't think we've found a part of you're right, to emphasize that point. I don't think we've found a part of the business that isn't going to be affected and improved dramatically by AI. It's almost kind of crazy that would be the case.
And listen, the other cool thing for me, on the heels of sort of, as I mentioned, we've built these other projects, and I love people ask, okay, what's your favorite company? And I like to say, look, if you have kids, which, you love all of your kids equally but differently. So I'm excited about what we've been doing. But what's super cool about this premise here is that marketers have an incredibly successful history of taking risks, of experimenting, of trying new things. I can tell you firsthand, right? There are other sectors and markets where the principals aren't that enthusiastic, right, about trying. They're a little more hidebound. Well, God damn it, this is the way we've done it for 25 years. Marketers aren't encumbered with all of that. Marketers like new things, and so I think the combination of just like the psychology of marketers plus all of the technical possibilities at hand, it's pretty cool stuff.
Well, let's start with your vision for what marketing looks like in 3 to 5 years from now. If everything that you think that marketers should do, they could start doing tomorrow, what does that world look like?
Well, and here as we get into this, Rex, it's going to be hard for me to paint some of those ideas without copying an awful lot of your lines, okay? But look, let's kind of, and then we also have to contextualize it relative to the sort of the market level things that have been going on. But first, just in terms of how we meet the consumer, right? The opportunity for new content experiences that are cooler, hyper-personalized, that dazzle, confuse, and intrigue us all at the same time. It's not a fad, right? And there is going to be a certain kind of hype-ridden, post-game hangover on some of the things that are going on with Gen AI. It's exciting, and we're going to blow ourselves out, I'm sure, a little bit there, but it's durable, right? It's not going away, and so I think just first, content broadly conceived, not just the ads, but content broadly conceived for marketers is going to get radically disrupted by all of these more specific Gen AI techniques at hand. I think that now we're contextualizing to the current market space, right, with the deprecation of the third-party cookie and what the majors are doing to kind of close things off, give us less access to the log-level data that we used to have. I think too many marketers listen to that, get freaked out a little more probably than they should, and lose the opportunity to let 1,000 flowers bloom and to take now this kind of experimentation centric approach. And that's, Rex, you've been at the forefront of that for decades, right? So how do we think about experimentation in this whole new way using more classical AI techniques, right? I don't see that as Gen AI, but that's huge, right? And then all the way through to optimization and analytics. My own strong view is that, attribution and mixed media modeling as it's been classically defined, I think a lot of that just gets, I don't know if it's out the window, but it's fundamentally transformed, right? So if you go left to right, in sort of the marketer life cycle, to Greg's earlier point, every aspect, every use case, every nook and cranny is going to be affected.
Hey, Tom, that was interesting you just said there that you don't like the cookie law. I mean, I want to, this is going to be the topic, this will be the topic for 24, as it almost has been the topic for every other, some period of the last couple of years, right, is cookie deprecation, right, with Google's announcement. You don't think it's going to be as bad as people think? Because there seems to be a little bit of apocalyptic thinking around that. No?
So it is apocalyptic, and here's how I see this. Remember, when Apple made all of its iOS adjustments, and the entire market, every analyst, was predicting the death of Facebook, right? It was yep. Oh my God! All of the data that Facebook is using for targeting is suddenly going to go away. Ironic, of course, that the only sort of de facto regulator that Facebook has out there, it's not the SEC, it's Apple, right? So they make that move, and then their stock almost collapses for a period of time. The numbers go, their revenue performance goes way down, and suddenly here a year plus later, they're up and to the right, they're killing it. What changed? And I don't feel like not enough people pay attention to this. It's AI, right? They lost all of the person level, user level tracking data that they had before. They put the machines to work. They do have some of the foremost researchers, a guy named Jan LeCun and others. They have some of the foremost AI researchers on staff. They cracked the code. So I feel like marketers have an awesome opportunity. It's sort of an Empire Strikes Back kind of opportunity, right? If Facebook, who's on the other side of the table, can harness the value of AI to recover from an extinction level event like the Apple iOS move, hey, that I think bodes well for marketers. So, and then we're back to experimentation and different techniques. But, if for anyone listening, and I don't want to sound too punchy about this, but okay, and you're right, Greg, you've been talking about it for years, but there it is in the Wall Street Journal, finally 1%, right? I guess it's 1% of their users who are actually going to do it. But it's not anecdotal anymore. They're actually doing it. Okay, let's go. It's an opportunity to change the game, and Facebook provides, I think, an object lesson in what this could look like.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm sure, Rex, you've got a question or follow-up there, especially around some of the attribution modeling stuff, because Tom threw out a couple of things there you and I want to go on. But just so every the listener knows, I mean, you're right. Meta was doing around 370, I think was high on a share price. It's now back, and you're right, it took a dive down to 130, but it's back up at 350 right now, so all-time highs. I mean, yeah, and I don't hear the danger. We did hear a lot of that it was real trouble, and they admitted it was trouble. They meant, ooh, boy, that was not good. But
well, it turns out that there's a lot more signal from a lot more different sources than just having a unique ID on a person. And then there's lots of other efforts to try to get people to opt in and have permission to be able to use the signals, which I think is the right way of going. So I think that your point about the resilience of marketing becoming personal, connected, and relevant, driven by data, is pretty impressive. So where I want to see where you'll take us is when you think about if you're talking to a CMO or a marketing manager, director, a media or agency, think of some of those different cohorts. What would you be telling them to do in the next quarter to really be ahead of the pack on adopting AI and some of the other use cases that you are most excited about?
Yeah, look, I think the first thing I would advise is to start thinking very intentionally about experimentation across channels, right? I know it sounds a little crazy, but you got to do your 100 push-ups. Start making moves now to think about allocation and marketing spend optimization in a way that doesn't depend on user level, person level tracking, right? Okay, because the good times are going to end. And there we are again, think about ROI and I'm sorry, ROI-based experimentation, right? Where, like Facebook, you close yourself off to some of the user level tracking that you've been using for targeting, and with vendors, with partners, if you have internal teams, start, really commit to dynamic experimentation. I think the other thing that kind of goes without saying is, and we have a lot of work to do here on the content ad side of things, because a lot of what we see today is it's adorable, but it's not, it's not as compelling as I think, Gen AI based ads will be for consumers. But start really playing with that. And of course, there are a number of companies out there now providing those kinds of techniques. So those are sort of the two key things that I think, those are moves marketers can start to make today, right? And listening, hopefully even just listening to podcasts like this, or just kind of drawing a larger circle and getting out there, finding people who are starting to build it. To Greg's earlier point, yeah, look, I mean, if the majors do it, okay, but let's, and I've been pretty virulent on this score for a long time. Like, Facebook, Google are really important players, and they're optimizing for themselves, right? So there needs to be balance in the force, right? And it turns out, and I'm not selling my own book here. It just turns out, to Greg's earlier point, earlier stage, fast-moving companies probably have more promise and are going to be better long-term allies and partners, right? So experiment, not just with your own internal marketing operations, but experiment with partners too.
Tom, it almost seems here, though, I want to go back to your earlier point. I mean, you're very positive and optimistic about marketers, and it's funny that I'm the guy who runs the trade association to advance the future of marketing, and I'm a little more pessimistic about marketers' ability to lean into that. Am I allowed to say that? I don't know if the board's listening here or not. But I would kind of say, I don't know, it does feel like people are a little slowed down. Marketers aren't prepared, I think, to get into this new world of incredibly complex technology. It was hard enough before, but AI just really takes it up a bunch of levels. How do you, what do you?
Yeah, look, it's funny, Greg. So we both maybe are so kind of locked in our frame of reference with the people we work with. So I have been passionate about matters of privacy for a long time, as I think both you and Rex know.
Yep.
And so. We started a privacy company called Catch, which is, doing great, and I'm grateful for that. By the way, the whole planet tilts towards privacy, so there've been some positive, just general market dynamics that have propelled Catch forward. Let me also say, because I'm pretty sure that most of the privacy people will not be listening to this podcast, selling to a privacy legal buyer is brutal.
Brutal. Right.
It's really, these are steely, kind of pessimistic, lawyerly types who are not going to be easily convinced and have lots of strong opinions. They don't hold opinions loosely ever.
No tolerance for risk whatsoever, and maybe rightfully so for some of what they're up against, right?
That's right. So,
which can make it hard for a startup that's trying to get them to do something they haven't tried before. So how do you overcome that? Unpack that a bit more.
I thought, and what I love about my job is, getting kicked in the head every day of the week still, making lots of mistakes, hopefully new mistakes. I thought I knew some stuff about the selling of enterprise technology, and it's been humbling to get into that new space. Mm-hmm. And to realize, so here from the other side, Greg, let me tell you, the way you sell to a legal privacy person is light years away from the ebb and flow of a conversation with a marketer.
Fair enough.
And so what I really appreciate about marketers, yes, maybe nobody moves as fast as you want them to. That's the other lesson I've learned the last 25 years. Everything that should happen, damn it needs to happen in 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, it takes 4, right? But even calibrating for that, I think that, when you talk to marketers, there's just a more basic curiosity, right? There's a more open-minded posture. And yes, there's some peacocking and posturing that goes on in some of these rooms, but I think there's a deeper level of basic curiosity about what's cooking, and what do we have going here,
Yeah.
versus the kind of insular, hidebound thing that happens sometimes in other sectors. So that's,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
I don't know if that's useful. But
they're maybe a little less likely to say we don't do that here or we are not open to anything new. That's right. I hear you. That's a very positive point. I appreciate that. Hey, Tom, what are some of the other companies in the portfolio? Like, where are you? I mean, obviously, you're placing bets. Some of this, there's a fund, but I think some of it's your own money, or maybe it's harder to spend other people's money too. But where are you placing bets in sort of marketing AI and some of the technology you're building besides Catch?
Well, look, there is a new formation. I mentioned that we weren't sure if this was a place where we could confidently come back and feel like we could do something really useful and not just useful but disruptive and hopefully seismic. So there's a new formation in Superset. That, by the way, we have early names for companies and we change the names 2 or 3 times. So and the first names are always a little more playful. So the name of this new formation is Super CMO, and
I saw that. I hadn't heard that yet. I did notice that though. Yeah, I wanted to hear about that.
Super CMO is our big play in next gen AI enabled marketing tech. So, and we're all in. Like when we persuade ourselves that we're going to do a thing, and we have this whole process at Superset for every 7 or 8 companies that we explore. And we think we might build, just one actually takes root. So after, and the other thing about Super CMO and the origin story there, because we sit around and we say, listen, okay, don't get cocky. Yeah, we know some things we think, but we can't be smoking our own stash, right? So Vivek and I and our team, we sit in the room, we battle it out, and Super CMO especially, we want it to be exacting and say, okay, yeah, maybe we know some things, but let's really dig in all the things that could go wrong or all the hypotheses that we're holding so dear that aren't right. Mm-hmm. And when we got to the end of that whole process, as I said, I think we just couldn't persuade ourselves that there wasn't a use case, there wasn't a place that we couldn't jump in, and where we couldn't. The other thing about what we do, sometimes we look at ideas and we say, look, that is awesome. That thing really glistens. But what do we know? Do we have a secret, right? Because if we can't persuade ourselves that we can show up and compete with some unassailable, we like to call it the flux capacitor from Back to the Future, right? There's got to be this secret, this special thing that we can do. If there's not a flux capacitor, we're not getting up off the couch. It's like, yes, that's cool. Somebody else should do it. So with Super CMO, it's like stars, moon, asteroids, everything aligns. We feel like we know some things, and we have context. There's a technical advantage that we know we can bring to this thing. We really love the market dynamics, and we're enthusiastic about the buyers.
What's the product? What's the product there though? What's the product in Super CMO? I don't know.
So it is centered on. We start from this premise that all of the data management stuff we did at Crux completely out the window, right? You can't centralize data anymore. There's no central match key by which you can create anything resembling what we built at Crux. So that's the new normal. Let's see, reality is the safest place to be. Okay, that's big. How do we proceed? Well, there's this kind of bootstrap that we know we can create wherein marketers are sitting on all of this data. It's siloed, it's fragmented, right? And they have more useful data that we can use to feed the AI machine, following, back to that Facebook example, right? It's a little more inscrutable when you use these modern machine learning techniques. I can't give you, and Rex knows all, I can't give you a model-based answer that you can decompile and use to know exactly what's the factor that made the needle bounce. And that's what's most intriguing and occasionally frustrating about these new techniques. Hey, Greg, you were there for Wrapped. We built these large-scale pricing models. Well, we had a model that you could draw on a whiteboard and use to talk to the customer to explain why price-demand response happened in the way that it did. In this world, it's at the third or fourth layer of inscrutability inside the neural network, and I can't tell you why, right? But the shit just works, right? So that's, put our arms around all of that data using techniques that we understand well, and create a sort of a central system of intelligence now for marketers that endows them back to the Empire Strikes Back. Facebook can do that, so can you. So let's give you human-in-the-loop AI-based solutions that allow you to now crack the code and prove and deliver reliable ROI from all of the signal that's lying in that data to drive experimentation in a post user level tracking world.
You've been using
that's the core.
you've been using the Star Wars ones, but I wonder if Lord of the Rings isn't better. It sounds like you've got one ring to rule them all.
Well, I like that, Rex. Maybe I need some new analogies. Yeah, I think, and then we're back to the flux capacitor. In this case, it's one ring, right? Now, the other thing I should say is that it's a symphony of techniques, Rex, you know better than anybody. So there's no one magic bean or one silver bullet. It's the symphony. It's the stitching together of these different kinds of techniques, the right tool for the right job, right? But leveraging modern machine learning techniques, and there will be, and this is the part that's dreary for some investors, where you go back and you use classical AI and good old-fashioned data science, right, to create a lot of the analytic insights now that we also believe, because it's all left to right. So yes, there's going to be a black box flux capacitor for the experimentation harness that we build, but you also have to enrich the discussion for marketers with, it's frustrating to me, like so many agencies are still peddling these shiny reports with the same old stuff that I don't know. Is anybody listening?
No, it seems like what you're talking about is an LLM that's sitting on top of as you described, a symphony, each of these individual instruments that are playing in, and the LLM is conducting the symphony.
That's
is that
exactly
the right way
it.
of thinking about it?
Yes, post game. So don't give me a bunch of charts with inscrutable shit and numbers, and I don't know what you mean. You put here, it's really like LLMs for old school business intelligence, but focused on marketing use cases. So clinch the point. Give me a paragraph. Give me a sentence that tells me what all of these numbers, right? Because I don't have Rex Briggs on staff, so I need, and there's only one or maybe a tiny number of people who can do it. Let's put the machines to work and have the machines now further explain, not just what so, but the so what, right? I got all of this numerical data and all of these things that happen. Bottom line it for me, and close the loop now. This is another key aspect of a human-in-the-loop solution. So it's the premise, like we're never going to move, especially in marketing, to, oh yeah, just turn the machines on. I'm going to go home, and I'm never going to open up and see what creative went or what the allocations were. Like that's never going to happen, right? Marketers need control. It needs to be so. I like to think of AI in this context as augmented intelligence. It's not artificial intelligence. We're going to augment human intelligence with these human-in-the-loop solutions, but tell me what the next step is. Don't leave me hanging, right? Like, okay, I made these moves, and this is where attribution and MMM, I think, just like we used to wait 9 months in a great context to know, okay, we made these ad spend allocations, did it work or not? Well, that's dead, right? In the world we're headed towards, it's 9 days, right? That fast twitch experimentation loop, I think that's just, I don't know, I'm curious, Rex, what you think, but I look at that and I say some version of what we're doing, the 3.0 version of it will happen, but the old school, Soviet era, 9-month, turn the crank, get results, come back and, did it work or not? Like, I just think that's dead. What's your view?
I think you're right. I think it is dead, and it's really exciting to hear you describe the vision for this AI that a marketer can interact with that is plugged into lots of different data sources and experimentation, and you can continue to plug more and more information in. And as you interact with it, it's recording your interactions or your decisions. If you decide not to do something, that also is a new data point that's learning from. and we haven't seen something like that exist before. So I think the challenge is that it's very hard to architect that relationship with the augmented intelligence CMO, marketer working back and forth, and the team working back and forth across many different layers so that the emergent behavior of what gets put into action is really easy. And so I'm excited to see you build and create and move, because each journey starts with a single step, and you're making a very big step forward for the whole industry.
Well, like I said, we're in it to win it. We're fully committed here, and I think the last point you raised there, Rex, is an important one too. You know, what we built at Crux, our customers liked it, and it was a strong product. I mean, this was the center or the starting point. Well, we weren't the originators. DMP, CDP was a category, but we think we did some useful things there. But if I'm honestly, the experience, the UX piece was never great. That was always our weakest link. And if we have ex-Crux users on the call, they're smiling and nodding their heads right now. That last point you mentioned, Rex, is really key for us here at Super CMO. We have to, it's going to be a whole new experience for the marketers, and we need to take that seriously and get it right at design time. So that's why we're, actually we have a small team. One of the first key hires is a UX assassin who's helping us get that right.
When I was thinking, I would love to see what you guys end up developing. When I was trying to create my vision of this a number of years ago, I'm out here in Tahoe, and if you know the Top Gun movie, it's no longer down in San Diego. It's no longer at Miramar. They moved it up to Nevada, where there was less stuff for them to crash into. And so I tapped into a commander from the Top Gun school and brought him out, promised him skiing and other perks, and said, hey, share with us how you think about this coordination of all this data, because nobody does it better than the Top Gun folks in the Navy doing that work. And it was fascinating because he talked about how in the dashboard design in the cockpit of a fighter jet, you get different information depending on what your mission is and depending on the context of what's happening. If a missile's fired at you, all of a sudden the context changed, and that's your number one priority. But if one isn't, then you've got a different set of interfaces. And so that really informed a lot of my thinking as I thought before about how do you create that new user experience. And so I'm really excited to see what you do in this path.
I love that metaphor. And I think the military folks have lots of useful frameworks for thinking about this thing. By the way, this is, to the earlier thing about it never happens as fast as we want it to. We're going to iterate, right? So when we get this into market, it's not going to be nearly as perfect as I know it's going to be a few more cycles down the path. But yeah, it's cool stuff.
Hey, Tom, any other businesses in there that you're doing that oriented towards marketing or marketers besides Catch and Super CMO?
So Catch, and by the way, what we're seeing at Catch, by the way, is that many more marketers now, and that was our big thesis, right? That privacy was going to start as a programs-based imperative for legal people, but of course, right, because they look after these kinds of risks.
Their job is to mitigate risk, right?
That's right. But that people with data in their job title, were going to be coming and wrapping their arms around this too. So that's exactly what we're seeing, and so it's pretty cool. In fact, there are some customers now who are chief data officers who used to be chief digital marketing officers or whatever. Those people now are driving the bus on privacy. So Catch certainly. I've always been of the view that if you're in dialogue or in a relationship with the consumer, you might not realize it, but you've got a privacy problem, right? The way the planet tilts, some more than others. I remember one of our early customers who we chased for a year or two. The key person there told me on a call, Tom, this privacy stuff is adorable, but we're hiding in the herd. We don't have a problem. We're hiding in the herd. Exact words. Well, they're a customer now, right? And so I think a lot of the marketers who might who formerly looked at privacy as something where it's kind of interesting but not that relevant. I'm going to hide in the herd. They're coming around now too. So Catch is I think the other key project for us, Greg, that focuses on marketers. The other projects are much more. We have a dev tool company. I'm not going to recite them all, but it's much more dev tooling. One of our things at Superset is we like to eat our own dog food. So when our own companies, here's a cool concept. It's a company called Checksum. Okay, when you're shipping software, QA is the redheaded freckled stepchild, right? You're always, and I'm always. The irony is like, I, as the CEO, am always prevailing upon our teams. Ship it. We don't ship it anymore. Get it out there. Get it into the customer's hands. Don't worry about it. And then you ship it with a lot of knowable, avoidable bugs. Well, what does the world look like if we put the machines to work and use AI to smoke out all of those knowable bugs, right? And resolve them. Yeah. So that's what. So Checksum is an AI company that's attacking what has formerly been kind of a dreary, boring sector of the software development lifecycle. But my God, like no engineering leader is ever going to be convinced that they're crushing it in terms of QA coverage when they're shipping a new product. So Checksum shows up, and it's not automating QA, which is what a lot of software engineering has been about. It's about using AI to surface and discover, and to generate the tests that identify the bugs, so you smoke them out before users like us ever have to see them. So that's an AI kind of project, but an example of a more technical kind of dev tools thing that we do. As regards marketing, it's really Catch and Super CMO.
Yeah. Hey, Tom, let's go back here. So listen, like you said, I knew you from RAP. You were kind enough to invite me to join the board to come along the ride with you on that. It was just fascinating. And that was I don't know, broadly, you mentioned pricing. It was an optimization system. That's what you'd built. And the challenge, as I kind of referenced, should we have sold to Microsoft or should we have turned it against marketers? Because it was working for publishers at the time. So very interesting. And by the way, the whole world went there. So you were right. Doesn't mean we shouldn't have sold at the moment, moved on, but you were right. Okay. So the question I have, to what degree, what do you think AI really does fix for marketing? Like, if you were able to stack rank some of the big opportunities given what you've seen, is it all about personalization? Would be one. Is it all about just efficiency of content generation? Is it about optimization of placement, which is a variation of personalization, I guess? Is it about attribution and modeling? Is it making better business intelligence, which is, I think, the thesis of Super CMO? Like if you looked at sort of, if you were to stack rank those, what is the biggest one in your experience?
Yeah. Look, I think it's. I'm betting on experimentation,
Okay.
and that as the fastest, most durable path to ROI. But this reminds me, Greg, of that movie a lot of us saw, right? I guess it won a bunch of awards. Everything. What was the name? Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. And so I'm hard pressed to identify the single thing, because with AI, that left to right cycle collapses. Things that used to happen in 9 months happen in 9 days, and increasingly then, you can't pick apart the Gen AI possibility of the content generation from the results it's generating as 1,000 flowers bloom in experimentation, and then the closing of the loop in the analytics and optimization that right. So it's this everything, everywhere, all at once kind of premise that, for us at least at Super CMO, and it's challenging, right? Because it means now you don't have tidy little insertion points the way early stage startup investors really typically want you to have. Like one little trick that you do that gets you in the door and gets you customers. Yes, we're always going to be approaching things in that way, but for us at Super CMO, and to your question, Greg, what's the one thing? We're tilting hard towards experimentation. By the way, there's Gen AI content and ad creation as well. I don't honestly see that as I think that's a table stakes kind of thing you need to do, but I don't see that. There are a lot of players, and I don't see a flux capacitor there, right?
Yeah, okay.
So we got to do. It's a broader surface area of things that we have to cover.
Well,
to
let
get it
me
right.
let me flip it around then and ask, what do you think is the AI part that's most overhyped right now? Then?
Yeah, if a person brought you a business to get funded in this area, you would say, nope, moving on, next.
I think Gen AI ad creation as like the center point of your business. If that's the beginning, middle, and end of your business, I think you're host. Like, I mean, I think it's a nice way to start the party, but I don't see it as a durable place to kind of hang your hat.
I think
And there's
that's
a lot
really
of those companies
interesting.
doing it.
There's a lot of companies doing it. The reason why I think that's interesting is because the premise at MMA Global with a consortium for AI personalization is you actually start first by proving that personalization of message in more versions has value. Then you talk about generative AI, because it turns out when we do the cost analysis, there's a lot more money spent on the media and reaching and not a whole lot spent on the creative development piece. So it's interesting that you point that out. I think that's a good point.
Yeah, and look, I'm not poo-pooing it. It's actually that's
Yeah.
like we're doing it. I just don't. I see it. It's like you said, Greg. I mean, it's the tail that's wagged by the dog. It's not. It's not the main event for us, at least.
Got it, got it. We don't want to be fooled by sort of what's overhyped at this point. And, I'm also a big believer, too, that we really can't see down in the future. I mean, I still remember, mobile looked good. I didn't realize that Uber was going to be one of the killer apps for the damn thing, would totally transform the transformation business. So, I don't know. It's hard to see some of that from here. But I don't know. My guess is, Tom, nobody's better at you and sort of being able to figure that out. So I think it'll be very interesting to watch sort of where you go, what you do next. Any other? Have you funded things outside of things that you founded? Have you funded other businesses, or just the ones that you and Vivek start?
It's all of the lion's share of our capital and our time and everything goes into our own projects. Okay. I do make with good vibes and harmony with my existing investors. I make small angel investments now and again in friends projects, but yeah, all of our time and money is all about Superset.
Great. Well, so I think as we wrap up, what would be some of the key points you would give to marketers about do this tomorrow, do this next week, do this next month type of, or marching orders?
Well, buy catch, I think, is first. Make sure you protect the kingdom.
Buy all the superset. There's a bundle package pricing.
And start it and get a trial package to Super CMO, I think. But that would be week 2. So it's after that, I think, Tom.
Greg,
Well,
Greg,
yeah.
I'm blushing. But what Greg said.
Greg knows. Greg knows.
Greg's very smart. He knows a lot about these things. So yeah, no, I think, look, and I do like to tell marketers, if not catch, you got to do it with somebody, right? Don't put your head in the sand and pretend it ain't so, because and privacy has been it's been a plate of broccoli and carrots. There's no macaroni and cheese on it. It's not sexy, but you got to get your house in order. And so if you don't do it with catch, do it with somebody. I think listening to podcasts like this and drawing a larger circle, really starting to wrap your head around these questions, just go to the shed, read, listen to these kinds of podcasts. There's a lot of good newsletters out there that help you. You don't have to be a machine learning god, right, to understand the effects and the outcomes and possibilities of the technology. So bone up by whatever means possible, and then don't be afraid, whether it's Super CMO or some earlier stage company, take some shots. Right? You can't subject. This is moving too fast, and I worry. Like some of the companies who proceed, do that kind of long, ponderous thing. You got to empower some of the trailblazers in your organization to take some shots. Give them a little bit of budget to take a shot, try a thing, and then be zen-like about the fact that not all of it's going to work. By the way, if all of your shots go in, you're not taking enough risk, right?
Totally.
So embrace the ambiguity, embrace the risk. It's the coolest time in decades to be a modern marketer.
Totally. And listen, that maybe we'll close with that, Tom. Listen, let's assume that through your education you've seen 30 years of tech trends. You sit in Silicon Valley. You've been at the heart of it. You built some of the biggest, most technically complex MarTech businesses that are out there. And so yeah, your advice is get in, get going, let's do it now, because and I mean, this is the most interesting thing we're ever going to see, right, in our careers potentially. I mean, I don't know what's coming next, but this is pretty damn exciting right now.
And how many times do you, in the course of a career, do you get to play when a tectonic change is happening?
Yeah, tectonic change, that's it. Well, listen, Tom, Rex and I both can't thank you enough for doing this. I really appreciate it. I'm a huge fan. My biggest disappointment is I didn't get an opportunity fast enough to invest in the last fund. So my ask of you is you let me know, give me a little advance warning next time I'm in, okay?
Absolutely, Greg. Absolutely. Well, listen, and right back at you. You two, I mean, I know we're all getting goopy here, but like, Greg, you said something, well, we were lucky enough to have you on the Wrapped board. Wrong. If you recall, it was a board that was kind of, we needed to change the whole conversation. Right?
Yeah.
You remember
that.
those
Yeah,
board meetings.
Yeah. I remember that. That was interesting. Very interesting.
And Rex on the stage of Data Matters at Crux, our big annual conference, helping us help our all of the marketers out there start to wrap their heads around some of these new data-driven techniques. So big ups to you two. Keep it going. We're learning from each other here.
I think you strategically had Salesforce in the room for those presentations, and you did a phenomenal job running that show and building all the excitement about what was coming next. And then a couple weeks later, deal's done, contract signed, sold to Salesforce.
Yeah.
Well done.
Listen,
that was
I am
brilliantly
very
orchestrated.
aware.
I learned a lot from that.
I am very aware that Tom sees the game plan ahead of the rest of us. Yes, that's what
He
I pointed
does.
out.
He
Okay,
does.
great.
So
Tom, thank you again.
I think
Thank you again.
that's it for this episode of DAM, Decoding AI for Marketing. I'm Rex Briggs.
And I'm Greg Stewart.
Be sure to listen to more episodes, subscribe, follow, rate, or review in your favorite podcast app.